She was just a college girl trying to make ends meet. He was older, charming, and offered her the kind of life she only dreamed of. But behind every luxurious gift and whispered promise was a secret, one that would tear her world apart and expose a lie big enough to destroy not just her, but everything she ever loved. What happens when love comes with a price, and that price is your family? The first time Emily saw Richard, she was rushing to class in the rain, her cheap umbrella barely shielding her from the downpour. Her bag slipped, papers spilled, and she cursed under her breath, soaked and overwhelmed. That was when the black Bentley rolled to a stop and the tinted window lowered just enough for her to hear the calm, commanding voice. "Need a ride?" He looked like a man from a different world, clean-cut in a tailored coat, eyes hidden behind sleek sunglasses, and a smile too perfect to be true. Everything about him said danger and comfort all at once. She said no at first, but the rain wouldn't stop, and neither would the world pressing down on her. Rent was overdue, tuition was coming, and her part-time waitress job wasn't cutting it. So when she saw him again, seated at the corner booth of the cafe where she worked, sipping black coffee like a man with nowhere to be, she didn't run. She served him with a smile. And that night, he left a $500 tip. No number, no card. Just a folded note that read, "You deserve better. If you want it, you know where to find me." Emily didn't sleep that night. Her roommate, Jess, warned her, "Sugar daddies don't come without a cost. They never do." But Emily was tired of struggling, of secondhand clothes and dollar ramen dinners. So she returned to that cafe the next day. And there he was, Richard. Older than her father, maybe, but confident, mysterious, and oddly warm. He didn't ask for anything scandalous. Just dinner, just time, just company. "I don't want anything you're not ready to give," he said. "This is just about helping someone who deserves more." The first gift was a designer handbag. Then came a weekend getaway at a private beach resort. Then tuition, in full. Every time she said thank you, he'd wave it off like it was nothing. But Emily knew it wasn't nothing, not when her life was changing so fast it made her dizzy. For the first time, she felt seen, beautiful, safe. He listened. He remembered her favorite coffee order, her dream of starting a boutique, and even the story about her estranged mother. He made her laugh. He told her she was special. Then came the rules. "No phones when we're together," he said, one night, holding her gaze. "No questions about my past. No sharing about us with friends. Just trust me. That's all I ask." Emily hesitated, but she agreed. Because the gifts were real. The attention felt real. And her heart, young, eager, and starved for affection, wanted to believe it was love. Richard never touched her in ways that made her uncomfortable, not at first. He was always patient, gentle, until one night after a gala he brought her to, tipsy from champagne, he kissed her. And something shifted. It felt less like a transaction and more like a beginning. "You make me feel alive again," he whispered. Emily didn't notice how much she was changing. She missed fewer classes, dodged more calls from Jess, and started spending weekends at Richard's penthouse instead of at the dorm. He made her feel like a queen, and she didn't want the crown to fall. Until one day she came home to find her father waiting at her apartment. He was pale, angry, holding an envelope. "Do you know who this man is?" he asked. Emily's heart dropped. The envelope contained photos, her and Richard, kissing, laughing, entering his car, leaving his building. "Where did you get these?" she stammered. "Someone mailed them. No return address." "But Emily, do you even know his last name?" She didn't. Not really. She thought she did. But now that she was being asked, truly asked, She realized she'd never Googled him. He never let her. He always said the past didn't matter. Only now it did. Her father shook his head, lips tight. Emily, he's married. And not just that, he has a son, your age. And his wife, she's not just anyone. But Emily didn't hear the rest. Her knees buckled, her stomach turned. Everything started to spiral. Richard had always said he was single, divorced, that he lived alone. But was any of it real? She tried to call him. No answer. She messaged, silence. And that's when she realized the man who made her feel safe might be the biggest threat of all. Emily didn't sleep that night. The rain returned, tapping against her window like a relentless truth. She sat curled up on the edge of her bed, Richard's gifts scattered across her room like evidence in a trial. The handbag, the necklace, the pale blue dress he said matched her eyes, they all felt poisoned now. She stared at her phone, the screen cold and lifeless. 10 messages, 3 missed calls, nothing back. Nothing since her father showed her those photographs and the truth unraveled like cheap thread. Jess came home around midnight, froze at the doorway, and then slowly walked in. "You look like hell," she whispered. Emily didn't reply. Jess sat beside her, silent for a while, then murmured, "You're not the first girl who's fallen for a man like that, but you don't have to be the last who gets hurt by one." It wasn't comfort. It was reality. And reality burned. The next day, she took a cab to Richard's penthouse. The doorman looked surprised to see her. He left for a trip yesterday. Said he'd be gone a week. A lie. Another one. Emily waited for hours. Numb. Empty. Hoping for a miracle. But Richard never showed. She wanted to scream, to cry, to throw his gifts into the street. But instead, she went home and opened her laptop. She typed his name into the search bar, his full name, which her father had found on one of the return address labels from the envelope. Richard M. Whitmore. And there he was. CEO, philanthropist, married to Vanessa Carlisle Whitmore, heiress to the Carlisle shipping fortune. They had 2 sons, Matthew, age 22, and Eli, age 19. Matthew looked familiar. Too familiar. Emily's blood ran cold. When she remembered, the boy in the photo on Richard's desk. She had once asked who it was, and Richard said, "A nephew I used to be close to." Another lie. Her stomach turned again. She clicked on more links. Articles, photos, public appearances. A golden family. Smiling. Perfect. Untouchable. She felt like a dirty stain on their flawless portrait. Then she found something else. A whisper in a forum. A post from years ago. A girl asking if anyone else had met Richard Whitmore. She said, "He gave me money. He said I was special. Then he disappeared." Emily felt her hands tremble. This wasn't a one-time affair. This was a pattern. She wasn't his mistake. She was his routine. That night, she did something reckless. She called Vanessa. The number was buried in one of the articles about a charity gala. She never expected it to work, but it did. A woman answered, polished, calm, bored. "Yes." "This is Emily," she said, her voice shaking. "I think we need to talk. About your husband." There was silence. Long, icy silence. Then, "Come to 47 Marlin Drive. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Don't be late." The line went dead. Emily didn't sleep. Again. She showed up early, heart pounding, wearing her simplest clothes. No makeup, no jewelry, nothing Richard had given her. She didn't want to walk into that mansion looking like a kept secret. Vanessa opened the door herself. Tall,
elegant, sharp-eyed. Not cruel, not warm, just precise. She led Emily through a marble hallway into a sun-drenched sitting room. Then, without asking, she said, "You're the 5th girl in 3 years." Emily flinched. Vanessa sipped tea like she'd just stated the weather. He likes them young, smart, needy. He pretends to be a savior, then vanishes before they can realize they've been used. Why stay with him? Emily asked, the words barely a whisper. Vanessa gave her a tired smile. Power, image, protection. You think he's the only one with secrets? In this world, love is currency, and I'm far wealthier than he is. Emily didn't know what answer she expected. Tears, rage, but what she got was worse. Indifference. Vanessa stood. You're not the first. You won't be the last. But you can decide if you're just going to be another scar or something entirely else. Then she handed Emily a folder. Inside were documents, bank statements, property transfers, hidden accounts under fake names. Take them. Do what you want. Burn him if that's your wish. But know this. Men like Richard don't fall easily, and when they do, they make sure everyone around them bleeds first. Emily left shaking. Not with fear, with anger. Not because Richard lied, but because she let him. Because she traded pieces of herself for comfort wrapped in deception. She went to the police. They couldn't help. The accounts were shady but not illegal. But relationships weren't criminal, not yet. She contacted a journalist, a young woman named Mara, who specialized in exposing powerful men with dirty secrets. At first, Mara was skeptical, until she saw the documents, and the messages, and the pattern. Together they began building a story, one that could expose Richard for what he was, a manipulator, a predator hiding behind silk ties and charitable smiles. But Richard was smart, too smart. He reached out. Finally, a message. Meet me. One last time. No lies. I owe you that. Emily wanted to say no, but a part of her still needed to look him in the eyes, to ask why. So she agreed. A public park. Noon. Broad daylight. She wore a wire. Mara's team was nearby. Richard arrived in a dark coat, looking somehow smaller. Not older, just faded. He sat on the bench beside her and didn't speak for a minute. Then, quietly, "You were different." "You say that to all of us," she spat. "No, just you." He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something real. Not guilt, not regret, just weariness. He said, "I lost my wife years ago. Not Vanessa, the woman I married before her. My real love. She died. And ever since, I've just been trying to feel something again." Emily's breath caught. "So you used girls like me? I gave you everything, except the truth." Richard stood, reaching into his coat. For a terrifying second, Emily froze, thinking of all the worst-case scenarios. But he only pulled out a check. "Take this. Walk away. Forget all this." She stared at it. A blank check. Any number. Any price. "You really think I still care about money?" she whispered. She tore the check in half. Then again. "Let the pieces fall like ash. You don't get to buy your way out this time." Richard's face hardened. "Then you better be ready for the storm." And he walked away.
Emily stood in the middle of the park long after Richard disappeared into the shadows of the trees. The torn pieces of the check fluttered across the concrete like fallen feathers, but the heaviness in her chest didn't lift. It sat there, dense and coiled, like a secret too long buried. She wasn't afraid anymore. Not of him, not of what might happen. She was beyond that. She was done being the girl who smiled politely while the world whispered lies into her ear. The next morning, Mara published the first story. It wasn't everything, just a glimpse, enough to draw blood without drawing fire. Prominent CEO tied to pattern of financial manipulation and exploitation of young women, the headline read. Names were hidden, but Emily knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. It went viral within hours. TikTok, Reddit, Twitter. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone thought they knew. Some called the women gold diggers. Others called them victims. Some called them liars. Emily didn't read the comments. She just watched the view count climb. She expected a call from Richard, or his lawyer, or maybe even Vanessa. But what came first was a knock on her door. Her father. And this time, he wasn't angry. He wasn't broken. He was proud. "You did the right thing," he said. Emily wanted to cry, but she didn't. Not yet. There was more to do. More truth to spill. Mara's team continued the investigation, digging through Richard's financial records, tracking down other women, some willing to speak, others too afraid. One, a girl named Holly, had tried to take her own life after Richard ghosted her. Her story hit Emily like a freight train. "She made me feel special, like I mattered. Then he disappeared, and I thought it was my fault." It wasn't. None of it was. But the damage he left behind didn't vanish with a headline. It echoed. And that echo became a roar. Emily was offered a book deal, a podcast appearance, even a documentary pitch. But she said no to all of them. She wasn't interested in being famous for surviving a man like Richard Whitmore. She was interested in changing the system that allowed him to thrive. With Mara's help, she partnered with a legal nonprofit that helped women like her. She started speaking at colleges, quietly, carefully, but powerfully. Her voice trembled at first, then it didn't. She became a beacon, not a symbol, not a savior, but a reminder that silence helps no one except the guilty. And then one morning, she woke up to a news alert. Richard Whitmore resigns as CEO amid ongoing scandal. There it was, the fall. Not dramatic, not handcuffed, but real. His face was on every screen, gray, hollow, exposed. Emily watched his press statement live. He stood at a podium, flanked by lawyers, reading a scripted apology with all the soul of a parking ticket. "I acknowledge my actions have caused pain, and I intend to step back and seek help." No mention of her, or the others. No real remorse. Just damage control. But it didn't matter. The empire was cracking, and Emily was still standing. A week later, she received an email from Vanessa. Short, elegant, final. "He won't touch you again. You did well. Stay away from the fire now. Let it burn." Emily didn't reply. She didn't need to. Her life slowly found its rhythm again. She took a semester off, then returned to school. Switched majors. Business, with a focus in ethics. Funny how things turn out. Jess moved in with her again, and they laughed more now. Real laughter. Not the kind that masks pain. The kind that heals. One afternoon, as she walked past the cafe where she used to work, the same one where she first saw Richard, she paused. It looked smaller now. Less magical. Just a place with old tables and burnt coffee. She smiled, then walked past it without looking back. Months passed. The noise faded. Richard vanished from headlines. Rumors said he was in Europe, or rehab, or divorced. Emily didn't care. She wasn't writing his ending. She was writing her own. And then one night, she received a letter. Not an email, not a message. A real letter. No return address, just her name. Inside was a photo. A young woman, blonde, smiling. A caption on the back. Her name was Evelyn, my first wife, the one I told you about. She would have liked you.
Emily stared at the photo for a long time. It was the first and last thing he ever gave me that didn't cost me anything. She slipped it into a box under her bed, not as a memory, but a warning. Love, she had learned, was not made of money or mansions or gifts wrapped in ribbons. Love was truth, and anything less wasn't love at all. 1 year later, Emily opened her own boutique, a small shop on a quiet street. Handmade clothes, local artists, empowering women. The sign above the window read, "Unwritten," because her story wasn't over, not even close. And for the first time in a long time, she was the one holding the pen.